Hey, how's it going, everybody out there on YouTube land? Today we're going to be talking about 1983's Krull. The film was directed by Peter Yates, who, if you don't know who Peter Yates is, he's kind of a journeyman director, like a very solid guy. He's like a jobber. He did Steve McQueen's Bullet, Year of the Comet, rather, The Deep, Eyewitness, Suspect. Yeah, so he's just kind of a solid workman-like director, but always does good work. You would understand why you would hire a guy like this to kind of mount a big budget, unwieldy fantasy film. You want a guy who like just knows how to make a movie, right? So you would hire him. The film was written by Stanford Sherman. I believe it's original idea. I don't think it's pulling from any source material other than the things it cribs from, which we'll talk about. And the film stars Ken Marshall, Lysette Anthony, Freddie Jones, Francesca Annis, Alan Armstrong, David Bradley, Bernard Breslau, Liam Neeson, John Welsh, Graham McGrath, Bernard Church, Todd McCarthy. There's another guy who's the Hagrid. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. Robbie Coltrane. There it is. Robbie Coltrane, another early guy. I mean, Liam Neeson, Robbie Coltrane. It's kind of like one of their first things they did, I think. Robbie Coltrane, I think, maybe had done a few other things, but first big movie they did. The synopsis is: a prince and a fellowship of companions set out to rescue his bride from a fortress of alien invaders who have arrived on their home planet. I actually picked this up the other day. This is at Walmart for like $7. I was like, $7, we're gonna roll the dice. It had been a long time since I'd watched Krull. I was probably like actually like sat down and watched Krull probably in the vicinity of 12. Somewhere in there. And I always kind of like thought I liked Krull because I love the look. I love the aesthetic. Actually, on the back of the box, take the fancy slipcover off, it says Excalibur meets Star Wars, lavishly mounted. And I agree. It is a really cool universe. It's a really cool concept where it's like you have like this kind of the Arthurian trappings, of stuff, but Arthurian legends, but it also has like laser swords and phaser guns and kooky magic and all sorts of stuff. And it actually works really well. And you wouldn't expect that maybe. And I wish kind of the movie had more of that. Because after the first act, I mean, it's the basic hero's journey setup for one of these movies. It is King Arthur. It is Lord of the Rings. It's every fantasy and medieval literature thing you've ever experienced is in this movie. It's kind of just all packed in there. I mean, even the bad guy himself, I can't remember his name, but he's like Sauron. He's like the Eye of Sauron. Like they even frame the princess in a giant eye at one point. Like it's that like on the nose. It's that specific about it. And then there's a Shelob sequence with like a Spider Woman. And they just kind of, they obviously not exactly, but it's definitely referencing that stuff, referencing climbing through the mountains and having, avalanches and whatnot. Like it's all in there. It all feels like it's definitely cribbing from that stuff pretty directly. But there's an opportunity, I think, with this kind of remix situation. It does feel very unique, and it feels like it becomes something of itself. In an alternate universe, Krull was a big hit, It's got kind of a lot going for it. I think if it fails, I think it failed in the casting a little bit. Some of these people just feel a little flat, Like the main guy. I kind of feel bad for him, Ken Marshall. He was kind of an up-and-coming dude. He was trying to make the transition from television to movies, and this was his big shot. This was his Mark Hamill in Star Wars moment, right? And he just can't quite deliver as a leading man. And some of that is his fault, and some of it is the fact that these kind of characters are kind of one note. Not a lot of texture to play with. They're supposed to be this paragon of virtue and value and doing the right thing and saving the princess. Just the singular goal. I think in the front end, though, like I said, I think the first hour of Krull is really good. Setting up the universe, introducing us to the band of characters, and everybody kind of gets a little moment. Everybody feels like they get just enough for you to kind of latch onto them. And you feel like it's going to progress. You feel like it's going to further develop those things down the road. Like it sets things up. but it doesn't ever really pay them off. And then it just becomes kind of rote fantasy episodic stuff where you really start feeling them cribbing from other things. Like a few of the things I mentioned. I mean, there's even like a swampy forest, and they end up in quicksand. It's just an amalgamation of everything you've ever seen, even up to this point. And it doesn't. And while it feels like super like unique and original, like it's got an aesthetic that I really dig. I really love the look of Krull. But I wish that there was just some more meat there, and that I was given some other avenue of investment. Like, I would really like to know more about the world and more about some of these characters, because he's got an interesting band of characters. They're all kind of like bandits. They're robbers. They're the kind of unsavory people, but maybe they feel like they're in a situation where they feel like they have to be. And this prince has promised them, he's promised them great riches if they come with him and save the princess. So they all kind of get in line and do it, while obviously on the journey realizing that the journey was worth it for just to save the planet, because the conceit is like, I think like it said, like an aliens land on Krull and they're going to fight against them. I wish there was just more exploration of that stuff. I don't like, I would have taken a movie that was slightly longer and then slightly better paced, for that. Cause every once in a while, like you get a great moments of drama, pathos when the old man, like the prince's kind of surrogate father, goes into the spider's den where a witch lives. It's actually some pretty intense stuff in that scene, and I wish they had done a better job kind of building to those moments, because it doesn't do a great job doing that. What other great things? So what I wanted to specifically point out was the score. The score for this movie is awesome. It's better than the movie. James Horner, good old James Horner, who's worked on a ton of stuff. From The Mask of Zorro, Deep Impact, Avatar, Titanic. He does a lot of kind of like adventure movies, And this is a great, almost swashbuckling fantasy adventure score. I would buy this on its own and listen to it. Like, it's that much fun. The whole time, it sells the experience, and it is a little bit manipulative in the sense that I wish that the movie itself was better, because to support the score, to support the way the score was making me feel moment to moment. I wish that the movie was better just to support the awesome music. Peter Shashitsky he's the director of photography. And this movie, like I said, it's got a great look to it. It does remind me a lot of a movie that came out around the time, John Borman's Excalibur, one of my all-time favorite movies from that era. And this guy kind of gives a similar feel. He kind of tapped into that fantasy but slightly science fiction kind of deal, and I think it actually looks a lot like Excalibur. Apparently this was one of the most expensive movies ever made at the time it came out. And I think because of that, there was a lot of like studio business going on in the background. From what I understand, like there's no like really sour grapes or anything about this movie. But it seemed like it was one of those things where they had invested so much money into it that they just wanted to make sure it was like met some sort of like broad standard where like tons of people could go see it. I think if the movie had a little bit of a harder edge, it would have felt more unique. Because it feels like it wants to be more adult. It's in there. And I'm not saying overtly adult, like nudity and tons of blood and gore, but just like give it a PG-13 or something, Although at the time, is this before the PG-13 rating? Because that was developed, it was developed for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, even though that ends up getting a PG rating. Steven Spielberg had so much clout. He's like, well, why does it have to be PG or R? Like, shouldn't there be something in the middle? And therefore it was birthed. But I don't know if this was before or after that. I can't remember. I'm old, man. I'm getting old. I can't remember everything. Keep it all in the noggin there. But yeah, I wish it was, because I think it would have like set it apart a little bit. And I think it would have kind of added some stakes, like, because it is kind of a listless movie at times. I think I just have an affinity for it or appreciation because of how familiar I am with the things that it's referencing. And it's kind of fun to see them recontextualized in a somewhat unique and new spin on this kind of material. So I enjoy it on that level, and I wish that it was better. But you know what? Like, I think I'm excited to show my kid this when he gets a little bit older, because I feel like there's a lot to grab onto here. Like, this is a great gateway to a whole genre that has some of the greatest literary works and films ever, right? I think Krull is like a good gateway. It's a little scary, a little exciting. I wish the set pieces were a little bit better. That is something I will say. The set pieces themselves are a little anticlimactic. They're a little one note. Like I said, it's like it doesn't meet the score sometimes. The score is telling me this is a really exciting swashbuckling moment, and then there's really nothing really happening. Nothing of like consequences really going down. But I don't know. I enjoy it for what it is. I know it's not for everybody. I know not everybody's going to love Krull. I don't know why. Why would you love Krull? But there is something a little bit, I think if you're into movies like of the other movies that came out in the era, like Beastmaster or Willow even, I would say give this a go. Give it a go. It's not as good as Willow, at least. I haven't seen Willow in a long time. Really need to do a Willow revisit one of these days. Because that kind of just got this. No, I mean, no, that's more specifically fantasy, I guess. But yeah, I guess you would make a good double feature with Excalibur. If you put on this first, you're hanging out with the fam, you watch Krull. Everybody your kids start drifting off, going to bed. The wife maybe is sick of watching your stupid Krull movie. Not that women don't like it, just my wife in particular. And they start drifting off, then you throw on an Excalibur. And you have dad time. That's what I say. I say, gotta get that dad time. Gotta get it when you can. Suffer for your dad time. Stay up late. Anarchy. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, you want to keep up to date with everything that is Zoobox, there are links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for my personal Twitter. Also, if you would like to make a recommendation for these daily videos, maybe even something that ends up on the big show, Zoobox Goes to the Movies, leave it in the comments, and I'll put it on the list. All right, everybody, you have a great one. Goodbye.